I get a lot of questions all the time in the forums and stuff like that about people complaining about flats. And what I've done is I installed tire liners. I don't like slime because if you puncture a hole, that stuff gets in your rim, and I like to swap tires between off-road tires and street tires periodically throughout the year. So I've had very good luck with these. I put these in my white mid-drive Mario bike, and I've had great luck with it. I think I'm 600, 700, 800 miles without a flat tire, and before that I was getting them constantly. I probably went through 5 tubes, and I finally decided to go ahead and install these. So that's what this video is about today, is how to install these the correct way, because you can't, I haven't found them anyways, I'm not saying they're not out there, but these are for 26-inch tires. And a lot of people ask, do you cut them down? Do you leave them long? Me personally, I cut them down. So since I got the new Mario bike, the Super 73 Killer is what I call it. So anyways, without further ado, let's get on with installing tire liners. Okay, let's go over a couple of the things that we're going to need to complete this task. Obviously, we're going to need the tire liners, some scissors to cut those down to size, a multi-tool and a wrench to get off our back wheel, some tire levers to remove the tire from the wheel, and a pump to pump our tire back up when we're done. And when I'm working on my wheel, I like to use a piece of foam or something soft to set my wheel on. So now that we know the tools we're gonna need, I'm gonna go ahead and put my bike on the bike stand to work on it today. If you guys don't have a bike stand, just go ahead and flip your bike upside down. That's a very simple way to do it as well. So let's get our bike on the bike stand and get the back tire off. Okay, so now we got the bike on the bike stand. The next thing we're gonna do is go ahead and remove the rear wheel. Okay, so the other bike I have is a mid-drive. This is a hub. So obviously we gotta remove the wiring that goes into the hub before we start with anything. And my connection is right here. Depending on what bike you guys have, your connection is gonna be different. What you do is you just follow it coming out of the wheel, follow up to wherever the connection may be, and go ahead and disconnect that. So there we go. Very easy to do. So I'm just going to use an adjustable wrench, and we're going to go ahead and remove these back axle nuts and go ahead and get the wheel off. Okay, now that we got the nuts loose on the wheel, what we're going to go ahead and do is there's some washers here. We're going to move them away, and then we lift up on the derailleur and go ahead and drop that wheel out of the bottom of the bicycle. And when I set mine down, I like to set it chain side down or with the cassette facing down, because I don't want to damage this wire here, and I don't want to bend the brake rotor. So that's how I do it. Other people may do it different, but this is my preferred preference. So now let's go ahead and let the air out of the tire. Select a small Allen wrench to push on the valve stem to let the air out of the tire. Now that we got the air out of the tire, I like to push on the tire to go ahead and break this bead loose. As you can see, it's pretty easy to do. Now we're gonna grab our tire levers and go ahead and work the tire off the rim to get that tube out of there so we can install the liners. I take a rag and I put it over my wheel just enough so where the tire lever doesn't scar my wheel. And once you get it off a little ways, you can go ahead and pull the rag out of there, get your tire levers out of the way, and the tire will just come off. You just start pulling on it, comes right off. There we go. So now that we got the tire pulled away from the wheel, we're gonna go ahead and reach inside and pull out the tube. So now that we got the tube out, we got the tire halfway off, I like to go ahead and take the tire the rest of the way off. You just go ahead and set it up pull it, the wheel towards you and push the tire away, just comes out right off. So we're gonna go ahead and set this down for now. And grab our tire liner. And we're gonna set it flat on the ground. And we're gonna set it inside the tire. And we're gonna go ahead and roll it out the length of the tire. And I don't completely overlap it, other guys do. I don't, I just go a little bit over. Maybe about an inch or so. Then I go ahead and cut it. And you have a little bit left. And if you do enough bikes, you have enough. If you do 4 bikes, you'll have enough to do 1 bike for free. Oh wait, no. If you do 2 bikes, you have enough to do 1 bike for free. And as you're going around, I just try to make sure that that liner's centered around the tube. And that's what I'm doing. I'm rotating the tire and checking it a little bit. And sometimes you have to pull it left, sometimes you have to pull it right. So now that we got that done, we're gonna go ahead and stick it back on the wheel. And just a little side note, guys, when you're installing this, you want the rigid side facing the tire. The smooth side goes against your tube. Now that we got that done, let's go ahead and reinstall the tire. And like I said, you leave a little air in the tube, but that's the way it keeps that liner nice and tucked inside your tire. So now let's go ahead and put on our wheel, or the tire back on the wheel, and we got to make sure that we check the direction. So where is my direction arrow here? So here's my direction arrow. So it needs to roll this way. So therefore I make the cassette face me, and I go ahead and start putting it back on the correct way. And the first thing I do is I get the valve stem real close, then I go ahead and pull the tire back on. And this pulls on relatively easy. You slowly work it around and it just pops right back on. Slide it over. Then I go ahead and push my valve stem through, which sometimes can be a little tricky. And you want to make sure that the valve stem is coming through straight. You don't want any angle on it. So if you see angle on it, just slightly wiggle your tire one way or the other to get it straight. Then I go ahead and put the valve stem cap on it. Then I'll set my wheel back down. And I did this the wrong way. Don't do it the way I just did it. But I'm gonna go ahead and go with it. I'm gonna make a gap here, so I'm not pushing on that disc or that cable. And you just start pushing your wheel back on, or your tire back on the wheel. I just move it a little bit so I keep the pressure over what I'm using to hold it up off the ground. And bear in mind, you know, you want to be careful with that wire down there. I know I keep saying it, it's because it's important. You guys damage that wire. It's called SOL. And you'll be doing some rewiring. So, simple as that. Tires back on. And a lot of questions I see on the forums also, okay? People are always asking, how much do I inflate my tire to? Well, there's a very simple answer for that. Right here on my tire, it says max 30 PSI. So my suggestion is to run between 25 and 30 pounds depending on your weight and what you want out of your bike. Me, I run about 28 pounds because I like a nice firm tire. So let's go ahead and get the tire pumped up and then we'll put it back on the bike. There we go. Let's go reinstall it on the bike. Okay, I was struggling a little bit getting the tire on with it on the bike rack, trying to lift it up and in there. So I went ahead and took it off the bike stand and I flipped it over, which is how you'll have to do it on the road anyways if you got to change your tire. So I flipped the bike over to make things a lot easier. So now that we got the wheel on, we take our trusty wrench, whatever wrench we use to take our wheel off. We go ahead and tighten it back up. Now that that's done, we'll go ahead and reconnect our motor cable. Okay, so that's pretty much it. I mean, it's pretty simple. It's almost just like changing a tube. You just add that liner inside. So now that that is done, I'm gonna go ahead and grab the battery. And since the sun is out and it's almost 60 degrees here, I'm going for a ride.